Hall of Famer Tito Santana, hoping to give.
Hello, hey guys, just 10 here with your 5 wrestling. What's your opinion? And
something like that than I have ever found. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Till 5 Wrestling is in the bird's nest.
And we're back together.
That's right. We're not on Sunray Studio. We've even got Denver Dave with us today, folks. That's
correct. Full house here in the bird's nest.
As I said on last week's episode, there's been a lot of hot things going on in wrestling, and without a doubt, the hottest thing has to be our first segment, Flip Side Face Off. We're comparing the heel turns of John Cena and Hulk Hollywood Hogan.
Yeah, so for a long time, and some would say still is, the Hogan heel turn is the biggest thing that's ever happened in the history of wrestling. I will still argue
it's the biggest.
And I do still stand by that. But recently, we have gained a modern equivalent.
Summer of 1996. Let me paint the picture for you. Summer of 1996. These two guys showed up on WCW television claiming they were there to take over. And they told the fans, like, we're not alone. We've got a third man. So WCW has some of their guys stand up to them, and they set this match for Bash at the Beach, 1996. 6-man tag. You get Sting, who is a WCW lifer.
You know, the rumor mill's working. Could it be Sting?
And that Sting was the backup plan.
Could it be Luger? Could it be Macho Man?
You get Luger on there, who had just came back earlier, the year prior. And then you get the Macho Man, who became a loyal WCW guy in the year he had been there. So these guys were there to defend WCW. The rumor mills were hot. Will it be Sting? Will it be Mabel? That was the other one. Could Mabel be coming?
Will it be Macho Man Randy Savage?
Will it be Randy? And Hall and Nash, they get it. They get the advantage. And it's who's going to come out? Who's going to save WCW? And out comes Hulk Hogan. The only person to even make any sense in this moment is Bobby the Brain Heenan, who says, well, what side is he on? Because that's what happened. Hogan comes in, drops a leg on Randy, and joins the NWO.
The shot heard around the wrestling world.
It changed wrestling. It really did.
Wrestling was never the same after that.
No, it wasn't, because at that point, this was a guy who for 10 years had told fans to say your prayers and take your vitamins and drink your milk. Be good to your parents, brother.
Real American hero.
Yeah, he was. He was the real American
at the time.
Yeah. So to see him come out and just turn on everybody and everything he had stood for our entire lives, it crushed people.
It was shocking. Yeah,
very shocking. Is kind of what we had at Elimination Chamber.
Sort of happened again. So when Cena wins the Elimination Chamber match, I remember I watched it the next day. Okay. And I, like I told you, I woke up to a lot of text messages from a lot of people. And I was like, obviously something happened, but I'm not going to check any of these texts. I'm just going to watch Elimination Chamber. It had to be about Elimination Chamber. So I get to the end and I'm texting Aaron. And I said, man, Cena won. Like, what's the big deal? You know, here comes Cody. They're going to shake hands. And you say, just keep watching. Well, here comes The Rock and shooter Travis Scott. Yeah. The shoot machine, Travis Scott, Brawl for All coming soon for him.
I hope so.
And man, it's, all well and good. Cody drops the big F-bomb. Big moment. They didn't bleep it out. Big moment.
GFY Rock.
GFY Rock. And it had to be the same line, of course, that Christian Cage used because we like to recycle AEW ideas now. It's a problem when it's the opposite, but I digress. Point is,
it's wrestling. They all rip off.
Cena goes in to hug Cody. Rock does and I was like, what the hell is going on? And Cena kicks Cody right in the nuts. I mean, just classic.
Yeah.
Classic.
I started screaming at my television in excitement.
Yeah.
My wife was like, what? I was so happy to see John Cena finally turn heel. This is something I had wanted to see since he became Mr. Fruity Pebbles with different colored shirts every week.
As a guy that grew up in the Ruthless Aggression era and seen his big reign, the whole next day to that, and I was at work and I was just like, man, something just feels different.
He didn't even appear on SmackDown afterwards, which I thought was brilliant because he told everybody, I'm going to be back.
That was the
full
right
time.
Move. Yeah.
Like this is how you make us hate him.
Yeah. This is going to work.
Yeah.
This is already going to work.
This will work perfect, especially if we can run this for 6 months or so.
Take it all the way to the end.
I don't want to take it to the end. We need to
Take it to the end.
Maybe till November.
Take it to the end.
We let him have December flowers.
You know.
Like, don't try and sell him as a bad guy in his last match. Fans aren't going to buy it, is what I'm saying.
I just think you should. I think that dying on his sword as a heel would be just awesome.
Well, okay, so at least we hope.
Or do you double turn him and Cody at the very end?
Well, wait, maybe this is going to be the WWE's NWO.
It's definitely possible.
Travis Scott out there.
The Dennis Rodman of the modern era.
Yeah. Who hauled off and smacked Cody Rhodes so hard that he ruptured an eardrum.
Yeah, have you watched that back in slow-mo?
Uh-huh.
That's rough stuff, man. I watched Stevie Richards pick it apart on his podcast. That's pretty crazy.
Did you hear The Rock's comments about telling Travis Scott that if he wanted to get his hands dirty, he better get it?
Jeez, man.
And he hauled off and nailed
A lot of people are really upset about that.
Well, I mean, this is your WrestleMania main event.
That's your top guy.
Yeah. And this is not something that necessarily you can work through, really, because you're going to affect equilibrium with that.
That's going to be a problem.
Yeah. So hopefully they can get it healed up in the next 6 weeks.
Not only will that affect, your champion's health going into Mania, but that'll drastically mess with the storyline problem here.
Yeah. Yep.
And especially it being seen as the last run, we're living on borrowed time here. We got to make sure things.
I guess that's what you get when you give a rapper the hardcore title for fun.
Yeah, is that a thing? Are we doing that?
I mean, The Rock's got his people's belt.
Can that be defended?
Well, no, that's kind of the fun of it. They're walking around with 2 fake belts, like CM Punk said.
I love it.
He never walked around with a fake belt. He's walked around with one he hadn't lost.
With a big X on it.
Yep. We won't talk about that, though. So, in comparison, I feel like the Hogan one was bigger if they had an actual ending in sight. We know there's an ending for the Cena heel turn because we know the end of his career is.
In hindsight, knowing what we know now about how the NWO played out, it definitely neuters that moment a little bit. It sours it. But when you look at it just as the singular moment and how just groundbreaking and revolutionary that moment was for the industry, it doesn't get any better than that.
Well, if John Cena shows back up in 4 or 5 years, and the crowd is going nuts and cheering for him after he's rode out his career as a heel and he teams up with Cody,
then it worked.
But if the fans are still loving him the whole time, it's cool to like a heel.
It is.
Let's
now,
be honest.
But when Hogan turned heel, it wasn't. So
well, it became.
Cool,
that's what made.
But at first, they were not.
Let's
cool
be
with
honest. That is what made being bad cool.
The NWO.
Yeah. So.
And the Bullet Club followed that exact same, moniker.
Well, I mean, you even look at DX.
Yeah, DX followed the exact same moniker.
That changed everything.
Tweeners, man, became a big thing in the late 90s.
Yeah.
Stone Cold Steve Austin, towed that line.
Yeah, and it was. I feel like that is the foundation that our enjoyment of professional wrestling really stems from.
That's true.
Yeah. Now, if you're someone who's just started pouring a foundation, I suggest that maybe you go see our good friends at Stover's Liquidation for some wholesale home improvement products. Good flooring deals, some washers, tubs, all sorts of over the stove microwaves. I saw at really good prices last time I was in there. I was really surprised.
Over the stove microwaves
at Stover's.
Over
the range.
Get them while they're hot.
Yeah. But go see our good friends at Stover's. They're open from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. They are closed on Sundays. They're 24 hours online at www.stoversliquidation.com.
Or if you want to catch them in person, if you live closer to Oak Ridge, Tennessee, you can catch them at 481 Tulsa Road, or you can contact them at 865-523-4449. Or if you're closer to the Cookville location, you can catch them at 452 West Broad Street, or you can contact them at 931-526-2591 and tell them Till 5 sent you.
All right, now that's been one.
Yeah.
So let's get into a quickie, if you will.
Oh.
Let's have a speed round on Speedball Mike Bailey.
A speed round on Speedball. So this is obviously relevant right now because the vignettes have begun airing for Speedball making his long-awaited to some AEW debut. Picture perfect guy for the kind of roster.
He is. He'll fit in great with. I really hate his lack of shoes. We both.
Yeah,
know
we got to
this.
fix the shoes.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of that myself.
Now, what is Speedball's real name?
So Speedball's real name is, look it up. Look it up.
He's a French Canadian, so
He's
it's
a French
like
Canadian fella.
Balajan Lebarge.
Yeah.
Yeah, is his last
But
name.
we'll call him Speedball Mike Bailey.
Yeah. So when he first his first match was in 2006, and he wrestled as Mike Seidel.
Huh.
Yeah.
I didn't
No
know
relation. Yeah. Not. He started using the nickname Speedball then. Now
he's very fast.
Yes. He made his IWS debut in 2009 and worked with several different Canadian promotions. Worked with Stu Grayson, Evil Uno, Kevin Owens a little bit even. And then from there ended up getting connected to CZW.
Right.
Where he started working in the States a little bit more.
Wherein also started some visa issues that happened.
Because to work in the United States, if you're not an American citizen, you have to have a work visa.
Yep. And it turns out that Speedball got in trouble for not having a work visa, which caused him to be in limbo for 6 or 7 years of his career, a long time. But sometime shortly after the pandemic, once that all settled out, he got that squared away and he started making appearances in TNA or Impact, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he had some great matches with everybody. They brought in a lot of the New Japan guys to fight him. So he was taking on Okada and he was taking on Will Ospreay. And then even on their roster, he's got great matches with Eric Young and Josh Alexander, Frankie Kazarian.
That Will Ospreay was Bound for Glory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
that
amazing.
match is supposed to be amazing. No.
Okay.
I haven't.
Yeah, that's a great match.
I checked out of TNA for a while, man.
Match.
I will pop in occasionally. I have seen enough of Speedball to know I like him. Like he's an entertaining.
He's a 3-time X Division champ. He has had excellent matches with Shelley and Sabin also.
But he won Bola once with PWG.
He did win Battle of Los Angeles with PWG.
Was it
in 2023, I believe.
Yeah, okay. That was he was finally able to come back to the States.
And TNA never quite gave him a main event push, which I kind of thought they would because he was sort of for a while this era's equivalent to their AJ Styles.
See, I never saw him as that.
He sort of was when he came in. And that now, granted, that's when Scott was running the show. He was booked a lot better when Scott was running the show.
That makes sense.
But they never were going to give him, the next level. It was always going to be X Division or bust for Speedball. So contract comes up, and here we are today, where it turns out that at some point in the near future, maybe by the time this episode airs, hopefully at AEW Revolution.
Yeah, I'm hoping that at Revolution he does show up and we finally get to see Speedball.
We're going to get to see Speedball in rare form. And guys, this is a guy that I've watched for a long time, his PWG matches on YouTube.
I've seen some of his PWG stuff.
I've watched a lot of his TNA stuff. He's a very talented wrestler, and he's going to fit in wonderfully with the talent range that we have in AEW. Yeah,
now, if you're interested in seeing some of his stuff before coming into AEW, the Will Ospreay match is a banger.
That's a must.
His Battle of Los Angeles final round matches, really great.
Yeah.
Speedball is a fun wrestler.
Had a great match with Daniel Garcia in that tournament.
What was the didn't he wrestle Alexander fairly recently too?
Yeah. Maple Leaf, not Maple Leaf Pro. He wrestled somebody at Maple Leaf Pro, but he was wrestled Alexander TNA a few times.
Yeah,
it's been pretty good.
Was it Bandito he wrestled at Maple Leaf?
I don't think it was Bandito. It was somebody. It was good. I whatever.
Anyway,
they're all good.
Bailey is somebody that you all need to be keeping your eyes on for the future. For at least with its AEW for at least the next 6 or 7 months
until they
get pushed,
get tired.
Yeah, hopefully he can catch fire and grow with the fan base there. Now, Speedball is actually the reason he has that French name. Do you know why?
Because he's French Canadian.
Because he's from Quebec. Now, Elimination Chamber was in Toronto.
Right.
Speedball's 2. So how about for 3? You give me some Tanadian Toronto superstars.
So my top 5 Tanadians from Toronto?
Yes.
Well, no.
I'm assuming Gail Kim.
Gail Kim absolutely is on the list.
Okay.
Keeping in the female greats, we're going to go with Trish Stratus. Makes that list. You cannot have a list like this caliber without talking of Adam Copeland or Edge.
Okay.
And if you're going to have Edge, you got to have Christian.
He's not from Toronto.
Oh, yes, he is.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
He's not from Toronto.
Yeah, he is from Toronto, Canada. He is.
Really?
Yeah, he
I
is.
can't wait to see who number 5 is then.
So number 5 is Tess.
Angelina Love?
Angelina Love is a Toronto native, yes.
So she's going to be your number 5, right?
No, she's not number 5. Number 5 is Rocky Johnson, who is also a
he
real
is actually
Toronto native.
Okay.
That's true.
So we're just going to let Christian get a pass.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean,
he's billed from Toronto.
He is our father.
Christian is my father, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't disrespect my dad.
Yeah,
Christian
I
Cage.
know.
You know.
You and Nick Wayne, you threatened that with me.
We're brothers.
Yeah, I know.
He'll be on the show maybe someday. My little brother Nick.
Well, that's a solid 5 Toronto superstars. Yeah. You have to give credit. Toronto seems to pop out several women's
Canada
wrestlers.
in general seems to pop out a lot of great wrestlers, but Toronto specifically with women's wrestlers. Yeah.
Because you got Trish, who is arguably a GOAT.
Gail Kim, you could argue the same for.
Is a GOAT.
Angelina Love, you could.
I wouldn't put her as a GOAT.
In TNA, you could argue that.
Yeah, she was she's a very good hand.
Yeah. I always liked the beautiful people. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was a fun gimmick.
Yeah.
So that's 5 Tanadians, 3 for us. That's north of the border of the United States. Let's go south of the border for a little bit of 225.
Oh,
till 225. JUventud Guerrera. Bring me
real juice.
The real juice.
The real juice. Tired of the sharpshooter juice. Let's talk about the real juice. So JUventud Guerrera started his career in the 90s, of course, early to mid 90s. He was wrestling all over Mexico, all over the Indies, coming up with guys like Conan and Eddie and Psychosis and Ray. Much like a lot of those luchadors did in the mid 90s, he found his way to Paulie's ECW, where he had a few great matches with Psychosis and Rey Mysterio and so on. And then from there, as in tradition of ECW luchadors that run through ECW, they ended up in Bischoff's fantastic cruiserweight division,
where Juvi had multiple runs with that cruiserweight title.
Did.
See, this is where I check it.
3-time cruiserweight champion.
You watch that ECW garbage. I loved WCW.
Yeah.
So Juvi comes in there, coolest mask in the business at the time.
At the time,
loved that mask.
Definitely.
Can we get that graphic again for that sweet mask? Look at that mask.
What a mask. Even the one he had in AEW.
Yeah, that was also
that was
cool.
A great mask. Yeah.
For a one-off.
Absolutely.
But Juvi, multiple times cruiserweight champion. Most of his best work was with Rey Mysterio and Chris Jericho.
Or Psychosis, you know.
Well, I'm gonna break some news for you. I was not a huge Psychosis fan.
I've gathered that over the course of doing this podcast.
It just didn't work for me.
I like Psychosis.
He never was one that.
But granted, you only watch WCW, so you don't know of the greatness
I've seen Psychosis work in person
in AAA or in ECW or some of his work in Japan.
Yeah, I saw Psychosis in NGW in Knoxville, Tennessee. So
how'd that make you feel?
I mean, it was cool to get a picture with him because
was it Mexico?
It was very Mexico. Another JUventud Guerrera life part that's coming up shortly.
That's true.
But so Juvi ends up getting into trouble in WCW.
He had a real attitude problem.
He thought he was the top of the charts, best star. He really did think that he was the Rock's caliber.
What
star.
I really think is ironic about Juvi is that I think he would have been a bigger deal had he not had the attitude. He was never going to be Rock level like he thought he was, but he would have been a much bigger deal.
They would have treated him like they did Ray
much more fondly had Juvi just stayed in line. They really tried. They wanted Juvi to work in WWE.
Yeah.
People liked him. He gets over. He's very charismatic.
That juice.
How could you not love Juvi?
Yeah. So he gets a couple of DUIs.
Yep.
And gets put in the group with the filthy animals with his friends. Hopefully as a way to keep himself in track.
But it made him party even harder.
Yeah. So he shows up as himself in the great Ready to Rumble film.
Yep.
And then in late 2000, they're in a tour of Australia. And Juvi gets a little wild.
He gets a little juiced, if you will.
Yeah. He ends up naked in the hotel lobby yelling at the police.
Mm-hmm.
And he reportedly was under the influence of PCP at the time. He was
allegedly.
No, that's
not allegedly.
Reportedly by the book, The Death of WCW.
Sorry, Juvi. I was trying to give you.
He was on PCP at the time.
Help you out, Juvi.
JUventud Guerrera got sent home at that point.
Yep.
Had to pay $1,800 in fines, and then was fired at the end of that WCW.
So from there,
run.
there's some gaps between going to WWE. He has to earn his way back with some good graces. And he starts that off pretty bad by hitting the indies.
ICP is far better than PCP, sir.
PCP, you really enjoy ICP if you're on PCP. Most of the juggalos are. And they're not precious. But
Juggalos are some of the nicest people on the face of the earth.
right.
Look, how about this?
Criminals.
If I can find a juggalo to come on
Yes, I'll interview a juggalo.
and discuss ICP with you.
Yeah.
You'll do it?
Yep.
All right, bet. Shovel, I'm counting on you to help me out here.
Bring me a shovel and I will dig the grave for the juggalo.
The guy's name is Shovel.
That's about right. I bet his parents met at an ICP gathering.
I don't know.
They were on PCP.
He's a very nice guy.
PCP.
He's very friendly.
The point of all this is
ICP fans are very nice people.
we're talking about someone that matters, JUventud Guerrera.
Sorry.
And we're not talking about the J in Violent J stands
I'm
for
sure
JUventud.
he's wrestled for JCW or something.
I bet he has. I'm sure he has because
Should I go to cage match? You can tell me more about Hoovy. I'm going to see if I can.
So from there, Hoovy starts working the indies, and he doesn't really help his "I'm an asshole" moniker when he goes out and he starts cutting his the Juice promo, the legendary. What company was that in? Do you know what I'm talking about? Was that World Wrestling All Stars where he goes out?
Oh yes.
The juice is loose, and he's like,
where he was fighting for their version of a cruiserweight title.
Where he's telling the fans, "F you," and he's going back and forth. Man, that was such a funny.
Back
promo.
in Australia.
I think it was, wasn't it?
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, anywho, so then he makes a couple appearances in TNA. I think he was in the first World Cup with Team Mexico, and then
I honestly
other
forgot that he appeared in TNA.
He sure did. He had like 3 or 4 matches.
Let's face it, TNA is kind of a fever dream.
Everybody's come through TNA at some point.
Yeah, but when you look at the fact that this company has been around since 2002,
yeah,
the fact that whole
if
run,
you go back and look at the alumni of people that even had 1 or 2 off matches, like there's a lot of.
I feel like TNA died in 2015, and we're watching a zombie now.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Well, TNA has managed to stick around, but eventually Hoovy does find himself in WWE around 2005. He gets signed up with Super Crazy and Psychosis, and they're brought in as the Mexicools, which is a interesting gimmick, Vince.
Yeah, let's make fun of Mexicans, put them on lawnmowers, and make them wear yard work outfits.
In the brief 10 months he was in WWE, though, he did become Cruiserweight champion twice. He was booked pretty strongly, but the thing that hurt him in WWE is that he was told to not do the shooting star press. That was Billy Kidman's thing at the time. And one thing about Hoovy is when you tell him not to do something, Hoovy's going to go out and do it 5 times in one match. And he did on a SmackDown. And he was led to a backstage argument, supposedly, with some producers that Hoovy was asked to go home and then was released shortly after.
Yeah, that's...
And from there, he's worked a lot in Mexico. He had a stable called Mad with Karrion Kross and Teddy Hart in Mexico. They were a big thing in AAA for a while.
I bet that was a fun little
It was pretty cool. There was a lot of... Mark Jindrak was in that.
I bet
there was
interesting after parties.
Especially with Hoovy and Teddy. They're very good buddies.
I bet there was some PCP and cats running around.
But Hoovy was redeemed in 2019 when he had his one-off AEW match with Chris Jericho. Where and to me that very much felt like a thank you, Hoovy, from American wrestling.
You know what? Can I pitch this for Hoovy?
Please.
Let's bring Hoovy back now because
he can work.
Well, we've got Jericho on the learning tree.
Yeah, Hoovy can
bring
work.
Hoovy in to manage Bandito, so Bandito can finally win that belt because Hoovy's got such a history. And
Jericho.
Bandito is like a young Hoovy.
And Hoovy can also still work. So if Hoovy wants to work, let him work.
Yeah, I would love to see Hoovy and Bandito against Brian Keith and Chris Jericho.
That would be amazing.
That would be a lot of fun.
That'd be amazing.
Tony Khan, give me a job.
Come on, Hoovy.
Where are you at?
I don't know. I just imagine that Hoovy's the kind of guy you don't want to put on contract just in case.
You put him on
historically, that's been a problem.
You give him one of those contracts where you don't actually take care of those.
He's like the RVD deal. You know what I'm saying? Where RVD, it's not technically a contract. It's a wink and a nod. Yeah. You can come in when you want.
Yeah. Kind of like they have the Jake Roberts deal.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
Let him come in occasionally. He can be backstage if he wants. That's
Hang
cool.
out, yeah.
We can use you to help us out and teach us a few.
AEW's got a lot of great luchadors. I do think it'd be cool to bring somebody like Hoovy in to phone in to tie it into the old school.
A great hand to have backstage.
Yeah, if you can't have Rey Mysterio, you might as well have Hoovy.
Yes, absolutely. Now, that's 4. And before we get into our final segment, we got to make sure to give a shout out to our friends at Stover's Liquidation, our sponsors of Till 5 Wrestling.
That's right.
They're open 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. They are closed on Sundays. You can catch them online 24 hours a day at www.stoversliquidation.com. They have liquidation and wholesale home improvement items. Truckload quantities are available, and you can find them in person at...
If you're in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, you can find them at 481 Tulsa Road, or you can call them at 865-523-4449. Or if you're in Cookeville, Tennessee, you can find them at 452 West Broad Street, or call them at 931-526-2591. And don't forget to tell them Till 5 sent you.
That's right, folks. Our good friends at Stover's.
That's right.
Always good deals.
Good folks.
So we started off our show tonight talking about Cena's heel turn.
We did.
We're going to close this show off talking about Cena's first 5 title reigns, because all this has been about has been getting John Cena back to his 17th world title.
Yep. Cena getting over the hump.
Yeah, breaking Flair's record.
Absolutely.
So his first title win was WrestleMania 21.
Yep, defeating JBL in a really good match.
Yeah, it was.
Really good
WrestleMania win. Ironically, Hollywood.
Yeah. Yeah,
and now Cena's leaving us to go Hollywood.
This has all turned out, but that was in 2005 at WrestleMania 21.
Now he held that belt for 280 days. Was a very good run.
Yeah, I defended it a lot.
The end of a very prestigious looking WWE title.
Yep, and then it shifted to the spinner,
which I have came to love. I love the spinner
I do
belt.
now. I didn't then, but I do now. Now it's just kind of nostalgic.
Now, if you're into nostalgic, go check our friends out, Eldridge and Blackburn at the Nostalgia Show.
Yep, good people.
Yes,
good folks. I remember this reign specifically because of him being drafted to Raw. I remember. I can't believe it. I can't remember if it was the same episode, but I know it was around the time they threw Eric Bischoff in the dumpster and sent him off. They sold, that was his write-off. Cena comes into the highlight reel. Was it?
Yeah,
I know that was 05 for sure, so it wasn't years later. But so that happened, right? Mm-hmm. He goes over to Raw, becomes the Cena we know and love, and starts feuding with Edge. And that's a back and forth thing. So eventually he drops the belt.
Well, Edge cashes in the
first Money in the Bank. Yep.
At the first or the second Elimination Chamber.
No, it was a New Year's resolution.
Yeah, the first New Year's resolution.
06. Yep.
Yeah. And Cena, he just won the Elimination Chamber. Edge comes out and cashes in Money in the Bank, beats Cena, and then he wins it back like 2 weeks later.
Yeah, it's not too long later he defeats Edge at the Rumble.
We have the live sex celebration of Edge and Lita.
He drops it to Edge again, I believe. Okay.
Yes.
And then goes on to defeat Edge again 133 days later. Defeats Edge again for it at Unforgiven. And this is a big reign. This is 380 days. A little over a year here.
Almost a full calendar year.
Yep.
But Cena holds that from Unforgiven until I want to say that it was the next year's Night of Champions or whatever.
Yeah.
He loses it to Chris Jericho.
Yep. Jericho holds it for a little while.
84 days. Or not 84 days.
Drops it for Cena's fourth reign.
Which did last 84 days.
At Survivor Series, 84 days in 2008. Well, I don't remember how he lost this one. I'm trying to remember how he lost this one again. I feel like Edge got it back somehow. And I'm trying to remember how that happened.
I don't remember.
Well, the point is,
what I do remember is the build to that WrestleMania match.
I know that Edge was the champion going into the match at 25.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that this is when he went to the World Heavyweight title.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So we lost the WWE title.
I guess that's how it happened. Edge was already world champion and got drafted over to Raw, I guess.
Or SmackDown.
Because Triple H got drafted to SmackDown. That's right. Because Triple H drafted to SmackDown with the spinner title. It all came together.
Yes. So this WrestleMania was Cena for the World Heavyweight title, and I will never forget that attitude adjustment.
Iconic spot, having Edge and Big Show on his shoulders.
Yeah, both of them. And Cena winning his fifth of 16 that we're going to cover over the coming weeks.
Don't you worry.
Yes. So that's 5. Hopefully you all have enjoyed this evening with us.
Live from the bird's
It got
nest.
a little chilly in the bird's nest, so yes, I have my blanket on.
Kept talking about juggalos, and he pulled a blanket up over his crotch. What's that mean, audience?
It means whoop whoop.
Live from the bird's nest.
We'll see
That's
you next
5.
week.
Whoop whoop.